I can tell you from being an LSU fan, LSU fans are fed up.
I'm putting my money on Bill Belichick, North Carolina. I'm not putting money on it, actually. I'm not that confident.
I'm going to use my brain when I make these predictions, unlike you. I think Texas is going to struggle this year. And we haven't talked about the long haul. We're not even, that far into this episode. We're already taking personal shots here at my team. Well, I think our viewers are kind of wishy-washy on what you believe right now. Welcome in, guys. Man, this is the Set It Off Sports Network. We are glad to have you here. If you're joining us for the first time, if you're a viewer from the past and you've probably seen a lot of my LSU stuff, we are rebranding this entire thing. We are going all in on all parts of college football. We are not just focusing on one league, one specific team. We are just going general basis throughout the entire country, trying to engage with all sorts of fan bases. If you haven't already, and this is your first time, my name is Michael Seditall. I have hosted the Set It Off Sports Network for a while now, and I am being joined by my new co-host, Will Volk.
Hey, what's up, Michael?
What's going on, Will? Man, are you excited as I am to be doing this? Finally covering college football season is upon us, and starting this thing off the right way, covering two fantastic football leagues.
Yeah, man, I'm really excited to be talking about college football. I mean, it's something that we've been doing, just you and me, a whole lot, like going back at least 10 years, right? Back to the days in media tech at Goose Creek High School. And, I mean, now we're just basically taking those conversations here into podcast form, and I'm really excited about
it. Some dark days there in the media tech world for your boy. Not so for you. Will was a little bit of an overachiever in that class. Some might call him a kiss ass. I didn't say that.
No.
I didn't say that. Other people said that. But
I just love covering the games.
Yeah, but me and Will go way back, man. So we're gonna have a lot of chemistry doing this thing. But let's go ahead and jump right in to our first segment. We're going to be talking about the SEC. All right, guys. So today we're going to be breaking down everything and anything going on with the SEC. Yes, the best conference in college football. Head to toe, most talent, 79 players drafted from this league last year. But there's a lot of folks out there, especially a lot of SEC haters that are enjoying this time in the SEC. 0 teams made it to the national championship the last 2 years from this conference. So is this a conference that is eating itself alive, or is this a conference with a bunch of sleeping giants? I know there's a lot of SEC teams out there, Will, that really think that this year is that next step year.
I don't understand how no teams from the conference have made the Natty in the last 2 years. Is that real? I mean, it feels like all my life a team from the SEC has been playing for that thing and winning the Natty. But yeah, you just have so much depth in the conference now. It's like it's eating itself alive. I mean, it feels like, gosh, at least 10 of these teams can contend this year.
Yeah, it is becoming the Wild West. Like, this conference, every weekend you see upsets, you see different things going on where I got a feeling, Will, that this league is pretty much 14 teams deep. Like, you can make an argument that there is 14 teams, and if you really laid it out there for me, you could probably convince me that there was 14 teams that we could see possibly in Atlanta this year.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that. And you look at the last few years, you've had teams that people thought would be at the bottom of the conference. All of a sudden, they're in contention to possibly get to Atlanta, maybe make the playoff. I mean, you look at South Carolina overachieving last year, Missouri overachieved in a year before. I wonder who might be that team that people think is not going to do very well this year that you're going to find all of a sudden in a playoff conversation.
Yeah, and there's a couple teams here that I kind of want to focus on when we bring up those points. And a lot of people have been talking about this conference and the cannibalization of this conference. But there is a lot of teams You mentioned South Carolina. I mentioned teams like Alabama, LSU, Florida, A&M. All think that 2024 was just the appetizer to 2025. Like all these teams want to take that next step. You have returning quarterbacks like Garrett Nussmeier, Lenoris Sellers, Marcel Reed over there at A&M, DJ Lagway. The talent in this league is unmatched by any league. I think anybody can agree upon that, but it's just there's not enough wins to go around. Will it's going to be one of those things where a team like Florida could finish 6-6, but I could still view Florida as being one of the top 20 teams in the country. It's just that's how ridiculous this league is going to be this year.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. When all these SEC conference games happen, I mean, you look at week 3, LSU, Florida, here are two teams hoping to make the next step, maybe make the playoff. All of a sudden, week 3, you're going to have someone 0-1 in conference play behind the 8 ball just like that. I mean, that's just the way the conference goes. You have all these elite teams. It's like you don't have an easy week. I mean, look at last year. Nobody was safe. Ole Miss at home against Kentucky. They lose to them, and that made the difference between them making the playoff and missing the playoff.
Yeah, and what's even crazier, that was Kentucky's only conference win. They went on to go 1-7 in the league, which is just unreal because I personally viewed Ole Miss as the best, most complete team in the SEC last year, and they didn't even make the SEC championship. So I got a feeling with the new wave of college football, NIL, transfer portal, all that stuff, it is going to be just, I think it's just going to be like this in every league from here on out. You're not going to see the Alabamas, the Georgias, the Texases just dominating, racking in 5 stars, 2-3 deep. Like the days of having depth in this league are completely over. Guys that are second string guys, they're transferring to other programs, becoming starters, and you can see, like, a team like Georgia last year is a prime example. A couple guys get hurt, you lose your quarterback, and it looks like a completely different team. And this is the team that won the league last year. So I really feel like this year's SEC is almost going to be a battle of attrition here because it's like if you could stay healthy and keep your starters on the field, you're going to have a lot of success.
Yeah, I mean, NIL, transfer portal have just totally changed the game, and it feels kind of more like the NFL now. NFL, it's extremely rare to see somebody go undefeated, and it's kind of feeling that way in the SEC. I mean, who is going to survive this gauntlet and not slip up, take a loss, maybe 2 losses along the way?
Yeah, so we kind of talked about the quarterbacks that are returning. So let's talk about all the other quarterbacks that are making their first time in this league as starters in this league. You look at a team like Georgia and Gunnar Stockton. Bama has a tremendous quarterback competition. It looks like Ty Simpson's going to come out of there. You have Missouri getting a transfer from Penn State coming in. You have Ole Miss, Austin Simmons, Mississippi State. Obviously, we got to talk about Arch Manning and Oklahoma bringing in the number 1 transfer quarterback here. The whole drama with Tennessee and Nico transferring out. You have teams like Kentucky and Auburn that are all breaking in new quarterbacks, which is going to just add to the fire of the chaos of this league.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm interested in some of those transfers. Oklahoma bringing in their new quarterback. Feels like they're reloading. Kind of feels like a make-or-break year for Brett Venables after last season, 6-7, and you lose to a military school in a bowl game. I mean, that's not what people are wanting. Year 3. Welcome to the SEC, though.
Well, we support our troops around here, so I enjoyed the deed that Brent Venables did and the sacrifices he made, basically putting his job on the line for the Service Academy. So much respect to Brent Venables there. But yeah, 9 out of the 16s with a new quarterback this year, and one of the ones I do want to focus on is what you talked about in Oklahoma. Like, you bring in a guy like John Mateer, a guy who's coming in with his offensive coordinator from Washington State. So there's not going to be that learning curve, I think. And people in Oklahoma circles really think that with Brent Venables taking over the defense last year, you saw major improvements. Oklahoma's going to be good on defense. Like with Brent Venables as your head coach, you are going to be a solid defensive team. It's just, does that offense take that next step? They can't be any worse. Jackson Arnold in that offense last year with all the injuries they had, zero running game, they can't be any worse, right? So if they can get any type of production, I'm looking at a game that they play early in September when Michigan comes to town as being that defining game for how their season's going to come. Because if they can get through that game, you have a freshman quarterback in Bryce Underwood at Michigan coming in there to Norman to face that Brent Venables defense. It's not an ideal situation for Michigan. But if Oklahoma can get through that game, they should be going into the Texas game undefeated, which you look at that showdown between Texas and Oklahoma at that point in the year, if Texas is undefeated and or maybe even Texas has a loss, but Texas and Oklahoma being right there at the top of the league competing, that is what SEC fans have been waiting for with Oklahoma and Texas coming into this league, and seeing that kind of marquee matchup at the Cotton Bowl.
Yeah, that would be absolute cinema. That Oklahoma-Texas game, if they both come in there highly ranked, maybe undefeated or one loss. Yeah, Oklahoma also has a little showdown with the Gamecocks in October too, and they've got a guy in Lenoris Sellers, very experienced, possible Heisman contender this year, and I'm going to be interested to see what he does. You know, he started the year, he started as a redshirt freshman, and then he kind of matured into the role as the season progressed, and once November rolled around, man, he was playing so good. Had to be one of the best quarterbacks in the country at that point, just willing the Gamecocks to those wins. And I'm going to be interested to see what Sellers does, one of the few returning quarterbacks this year in the league.
Well, you can say that Oklahoma game last year for South Carolina is what propelled them to the end of the year that they had. I mean, you were looking at a team that was, 3-3 in the league, kind of struggling there, losing to Alabama, losing a heartbreaker to LSU, getting blown out by Ole Miss. It was looking not so good for the Gamecocks.
You were at that Ole Miss game, right?
Yes, and let's just say the Gamecock faithful were not on the Beamer Ball train at that point in time. But like you said, that Oklahoma game really changed their season. I find South Carolina to be one of the most fascinating teams in this league this year. You obviously talked about Lenoris Sellers, but a lot of South Carolina fans are secretly excited about this defense. Like, they lost a ton of people to the NFL draft. And it is going to be hard to replace that type of talent on defense. But there's a lot of South Carolina fans that are out there that are saying, well, they might not be names you know, but they're going to be names you're going to know. And if Shane and Beamer Ball get it going, it is going to take another massive effort from their defense. I think you have a great quarterback there. Offensively, I still think they're a step behind other teams in this league as far as the whole. I think they have a great quarterback, don't get me wrong, but if this team's going to win games, it's going to be because that defense is another top 30 unit in the country again this year.
Yeah, it's hard to say what they're going to do. I mean, I could see them going anywhere from not even making a bowl game to being a playoff team. I mean, they're just reloading so much, as it feels like has been the case the last few seasons for the Gamecocks. We'll just have to see how it turns out.
Yeah, so at the top of this league, though, you look at a lot of the preseason polls, a lot of the predictions that are coming around, you really see four consistent names up at the top. You see Georgia, Texas, Alabama, and LSU. So, Will, out of those four teams, who do you think has the most potential to be that team that face plants this year? Not the team that exceeds and goes on to do what everybody expects, but that team that just doesn't have quite the year that their fan base hopes.
Gosh, if I had to pick one of those four teams, I think it's got to be LSU. I didn't like what I saw last year. we went to that LSU Alabama game together, and that wasn't pretty. And then they followed that up losing to Florida, and it just felt like, ugh, gosh, I don't like the way this is working out. But I mean, you're the LSU expert, right? What do you think?
Well, since you hurt me just now, like that was a cold shot. Like we're not even, that far into this episode. We're already taking personal shots here at my team. My LSU Tigers, first of all, are going to be okay because Brian Kelly, all right, he rebuilt this roster. Now, the last 3 years at LSU fans would be the first to tell you they haven't had a roster that could compete with the big dogs of the SEC, of other conferences, but this is not one of those years. Now, whether all these players that have all this talent gel together, that's another story. But as far as having the talent, this is probably one of the few teams in the league that is going to have a lot of depth. Like, they brought in a ton of transfers. They brought in multiple transfers at the same positions. They have completely retooled this defense. And Blake Baker, in his second year now, has all the tools that he needs in the shed to make LSU a competitive defense. They don't have to be top 20, all right? They just have to be better at what they've been doing, because the reality of last year was you got to a point in the year where you face planted. You weren't good enough to compete with the elite tier teams on your schedule, like the Alabamas. You lose a game against Florida. You really probably deserve to lose the South Carolina game, but
oh yeah, they did.
You go into this year, and it is hyper important that Brian Kelly wins this opening game. A lot of people have made a lot about a little. I don't think it's as important as people make it, but I can tell you from being an LSU fan, LSU fans are fed up at losing the first. This is going on 5 years in a row now, Will. And speaking of that, you play.
We were little kids last time LSU won a season opener, right?
Exactly.
So long,
you got to go
remember.
back to 2019 where they played Georgia Southern. And credit LSU, they play marquee matchups week one. These are all games on primetime TV against quality opponents. But you're staring at the face of the best opponent you faced in the 6-year stretch. Like, you are going on the road at Clemson. Like, it doesn't get any harder than that.
Yeah, we're going to have to talk once that game gets closer about which is the real Death Valley. I mean, they have the same stadium name and the same fight song, same mascot, but yeah, that's going to be a big time test for them. Out of all those season openers, this one probably the toughest. Clemson looking good, and I mean, I know we're going to talk about the ACC later, but yeah, that's a tough test, a tough environment, tough way to open the year. And then you look at the rest of their schedule. They got to go on the road to Ole Miss, on the road to Alabama. There's a lot of tough tests on that schedule. And can Brian Kelly rise up and, despite all those tests, bring that team to the playoffs, which is where Tiger fans probably expect and probably won't accept anything less.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the target on Brian Kelly's back gets a lot bigger if this team doesn't make the playoffs. And I don't necessarily say hot seat like he's getting fired unless LSU goes on to have like a disastrous year. But I wouldn't say he's on the hot seat as far as like getting fired this season. But here's a couple names to look out for this year, right? Talking about the hot seat. And the most fascinating one to me is Billy Napier, old Sunbelt Billy down there in my peoples in Louisiana. Remember his days with the Raging Cajuns. So
they wanted his head about middle of last year.
Yeah, and it is unreal to see the turnaround that Florida made. I mean, we're talking about a team that got blown out by Miami opening week. You lose to A&M. You lose heartbreakers to Tennessee. And then all of a sudden something clicked. And a lot of Gator fans down there think what clicked is DJ Lagway, a kid, 5-star out of Texas, a tremendous talent, as we all saw last year. But this is a team that rallied at the end of last year and really feels like that was just the stepping stone. They returned a lot of their roster. Florida did a great job in player retention, which is a huge name in the game in the transfer portal era and NIL era. They got a lot of pieces back. What is your opinion on what you think the Gators are going to do this year?
Yeah, I mean, I like the way they were trending towards the end of last year. Everyone was like, oh, that November stretch, they're going 0-5. Well, guess what? They found a way to win most of their games in November last year. I mean, the SEC schedule, same opponents this year. You just flip the home and away. So it's still a gauntlet. You still have to play so many big brands, so many tough teams. But I do like the way they're trending with Lagway. And, I mean, I think they might be sitting at like 8-9 wins this season. I think that's totally within the realm of possibility. Maybe knocking on the door of the playoff if they can get some of those really big games to go their way. But here's a team that's got to go to LSU. They get Texas at home. They play Georgia. That's 3 of the 4 big dogs that you had mentioned earlier on that schedule.
Yeah, and not to mention, I mean, like, this schedule is brutal. You have to play Miami. You have to play Florida State, who, God, for Mike Norvell's sake, has to be better this year.
Hard to get worse.
Yeah, you have 2 tough out-of-conference games. Like, it is not a walk in the park that you're not going out there playing Florida A&M for your non-conference games. Another interesting team when it comes to coaches on the hot seat is the Auburn Tigers. And Auburn fans are super restless with Hugh Freeze. It has not been a very good tenure so far for Hugh Freeze and the Auburn Tigers. You lose to Vanderbilt last year. No disrespect to Vanderbilt, but you lost a lot of games, including a game to Oklahoma where your quarterback threw 2 pick sixes, and that is why you lost. So fans are excited about Auburn. They kind of retooled some things. You're getting a quarterback in Jackson Arnold that struggled mightily at Oklahoma last year. Can Hugh Freeze bring the best out of him and get this Auburn team playing better? Personally, I don't think this year is going to go much better for Auburn. Like I said, this is just, if you were lagging behind in any department in the SEC, you are going to get steamrolled on Saturdays. Like, if you're not ready to play and locked in on a Saturday, it doesn't matter who you're playing in this league, you are going to get rolled. And I just think Auburn is still lagging sufficiently in the talent department, and I think it's going to lead to Hugh Freeze's demise at the end of the season.
Yeah, I could see that. I don't see them as a conference or playoff contender, but I will say this. Jordan Hare in odd-numbered year, Georgia, Alabama both coming in there, and weird things happen every time Alabama plays there in the Iron Bowl. So, I mean, they might not be a top contender in the conference, but they sure could disrupt some team seasons this year. Just keep that on your radar.
Yeah, the Iron Bowl and obviously Georgia going to Auburn, it's kind of crazy how it's always been like those 2 huge games for Auburn are home each year and then away the next year. They probably should have done Auburn a little bit of a favor and split those up. But it makes for exciting times there on the Plains because those are huge games down at Jordan Hare. And speaking of those types of games, I want to kind of go over and get your feel on some of the most important games, not necessarily your top tier like team against best team. Like, give me just the most important games to you on a lot of these team schedules. Like, just give me your take on what do you think the most important games in the SEC are this year.
I mean, I'm looking at one at the end of September. Everyone says Georgia, Alabama's a big game, but look at another game that weekend. LSU traveling to Ole Miss. Here are 2 teams that, you know, were just outside of the playoff last year. They were contending for it in November. And this feels like one of those games that might be an elimination game for both teams. I feel like they're kind of similar. And those games, you know it very well. The LSU Ole Miss games are typically very close. So I think that'll be a real interesting one.
Yeah, over the last 10 years, LSU has really dominated. But if you go look at the last 4, it's been split even, 2-2. Ole Miss has won both games in Oxford, which is where the game is going to be played. LSU won both games in Death Valley. So that is for sure going to be 2 teams that are trying to make that leap to that next tier. at the top of the league for sure. A game that I have on my radar as being a really sneaky, underrated game. It goes back to a team that we kind of talked about earlier, and that is South Carolina at Missouri. What do they call this trophy, Will? You would know better than me, right?
Is
It's
it the
like
Mayor's Cup? Because
I think it
both
is.
schools are in Columbia.
Yes, you have the Battle of the Columbias right there in Missouri this year. Last year's game was absolutely thrilling, and like I was saying about the Oklahoma game, another game where South Carolina is coming off of a huge Texas A&M win, but in typical South Carolina years past fashion, a lot of Gamecock fans were expecting them to go on and lose that game because you know why? Because they had expectations and were projected to win that game, but Lenore Sellers, that was kind of his breakout party. Like, he took that game over and won that game single-handedly for the Gamecocks. But South Carolina at Missouri is interesting because these are two right now sitting middle of the pack teams. But both of these teams really think they can get to that next tier. And it'll be interesting to see if Shane Beamer and Eli Drinkwitz can elevate their teams into that next tier. Both teams have similar talent rosters. Obviously, Sellers coming back for South Carolina is huge. I think Missouri, roster-wise, from top to bottom, is probably more talented than South Carolina, but Lenore Sellers here is the ultimate X factor when it comes to this game. But I see that game coming down to like who makes that jump and who maybe is that team that finishes 9-3 or a team that could go 7-6.
Yeah, as a graduate of the University of South Carolina, that game kind of got me a little scared. I know it all too well. South Carolina loses games that you would think they'd win. I've seen people online saying, well, I think we're going to be undefeated in October heading into LSU. Watch out for that Missouri game. I mean, a lot of years past, people have chalked that one up as a win, and then they go on to lose. Let me think about some other ones. Texas, Florida, that's a real interesting game. Texas with a big challenge going into the swamp this year instead of getting Florida at home. And that'll be another, October 4th, right? So that's a pretty early test of Florida. I mean, they'll already have played LSU and Miami. But yeah, just kind of interested on your thoughts on that one and Texas going on the road to the swamp there.
Well, I think Texas is going to struggle this year. And we haven't talked about the Longhorns. This is a team that is probably going to be preseason number one, I would think, when the AP poll drops. A team that everybody is picking to win this league. And I'm just not sold, Will. I think Greg Sankey did Texas a tremendous favor by welcoming them into the league with a Charmin soft schedule last year. That kind of flips this year. You got to go to Georgia, like we said. You got to go to Florida. I think that's the game that Billy Napier and Florida have circled. Is that Texas game when they come to town? They got embarrassed last year at Texas. Like, obviously DJ Lagway and Graham Mertz got hurt, and they were kind of, pushing a boulder uphill type mentality there. Like, they really had no chance. But this is the game I think Billy Napier has circled. Like, this is the job-saving, season-turning kind of game down there in the swamp. And I think people forget how hard it is to go down there and win in Florida. But a team like Texas really intrigues me because you go to Georgia this year. All right, you obviously have the Cotton Bowl with OU. OU seems to think that they're going to be tremendously better. And I think now that we're going to kind of move into wrapping this SEC thing up, let's talk about predictions, right? We both made our predictions. Give me your top 4 teams that you think are going to finish in this league, and then who you got going to the SEC championship.
Well, this isn't going to be too hot of a take. I think the SEC championship will be another round of Georgia versus Alabama, and Alabama winning. But who are some of the teams that can contend for that? I don't know. I'm a Carolina fan, so not going to lie. I think South Carolina will be right up there. I think they're going to have a good year. And, I'll say Texas will be up there as well, but I just think that schedule's too tough, and I think they're going to slip up too many times and not make it to Atlanta. But, I mean, I like Alabama this year. Georgia has their struggles beating them, so that's one test that I think they may be able to pass on the road, though. And then LSU, they get it home. I've seen Alabama beat LSU a lot, so I feel like they got that one. And then, yeah, Alabama playing Georgia again, Atlanta. I think they'll have them.
Who you got? You got Bama rolling in that one?
Nah, it'll be a close game.
In Atlanta, man, I mean, you know,
Yeah, that's true.
Georgia really struggles in that building against the Crimson Tide for sure. So
Yeah,
my top,
I'm in Georgia actually. Maybe I need to put
you
on a
better.
different hat here.
Oh, are we going full Lee Corsa right now?
Georgia Bulldogs win the SEC.
Oh my goodness, shocking the world out here with the homerism. So my top four going in. A lot of people are talking about this Texas team, and rightfully so. They're one of the most talented teams in the country. I actually have Texas, and not even in my top four of the SEC. I have them losing 3 games this year, and Arch Manning kind of taking his licks as far as the season goes. I mean, you open the season with Ohio State on the road, defending national champions. I don't think that game's going to go very well for Texas at all. I could be completely wrong, and they'll go in there and blow out Ohio State, and then I'll just delete this clip out of the video, and it'll be like I never even said that. But my opinion, this conference is going to run through Georgia, and it's going to run through Alabama. I do have LSU at 7-1. I'm not even sure how the tiebreakers would work on this thing, because I would have Georgia. I would have Georgia beating Bama, LSU losing to Bama, kind of in there. So I don't know how the tiebreakers will work and who would even come out of that as being selected for the SEC championship. But I also have Bama and Georgia in the SEC championship game. But I got the Crimson Tide coming out on top. I got them losing the regular season game in Athens. But I think Bama bounces back and they get Georgia in Atlanta and kind of promote that program back to national relevancy where they kind of belong. In that top tier echelon of college football.
While you've been talking, I was thinking what I was saying kind of doesn't make sense. How am I going to switch Georgia over Alabama when the game's in Atlanta, yet when the game's in Athens, I'm still picking Alabama over Georgia. So I'm all over the place. Let me just go with the Georgia Bulldogs. Woo, 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 woo. And I'm hoping South Carolina goes to Atlanta because they haven't played that game in too long. And I just want to see it again. That's just what I want. Man, I did a whole thing, too, where I had, picked every game by game, but I deleted that. I had some good conference standings, but I forgot what they were.
Just your heart's rolling with the Bulldogs. I mean, you're wearing the hat. Like, you gotta support them, you know? I'm surprised we didn't get a South Carolina, Vanderbilt SEC championship from you, Will. Like, usually you're the guy who's coming up with these outrageous scenarios, and trying to make any sense of it is really hard to do, but you've always been that guy, you know, to take risk. And I was just surprised your homerism didn't have South Carolina in the SEC championship.
Can I take it back, or is it too late?
Well, you're currently wearing a Georgia hat and a South Carolina hat at the same time. So I think our viewers are kind of wishy-washy on what you believe right now. So, you know, they're going to be watching this and they're going to be just as confused as I am. So, but yeah, that's going to be our SEC preview. Like I said, best conference. I look forward to this season in the SEC. It's going to be one of those years where any team can literally win it. Do you have any last words for our dear SEC viewers?
Yeah, I mean, we can pick it all we want, but it's going to be very unpredictable. I really believe somebody from that bottom half of the league, I don't know who, is going to rise up out of nowhere and finish top 5 in the conference, and people are going to be like, what? Just because the parity is so much in that league. So just watch out. Well, all right. Now that we're transitioning out of the SEC, let me take off my SEC hats. You might be wondering why I got hats at my disposal. As you can see, I'm standing actually in my closet right now. You know why? Okay, I'll tell you. Okay, I'll tell you. It's because the closet has good acoustics. Yeah, I need to set me up a little studio. I moved not that long ago, so I need a place with good acoustics. The rest of the house is echoey.
Hey, you got to start somewhere. I mean,
Yeah. I mean, all these companies that start in garages, I'm starting in the closet.
Yeah, when you say it like that, it sounds weird. But you know what? We're going to still continue to do the show, whether you're in the closet or if you ever decide you want to come out of the closet.
No, not like that. I'm just in the closet where my clothes are. Well, let's just go to the ACC. I got my normal hat back on, and let's talk about some ACC football.
All right. The ACC this year, to me, Will, is really top heavy. You're looking at two teams here, Clemson, Miami, kind of like it was last year, but then you have the shocker of the year, and you have SMU come out of nowhere and just first season in the league just come out of nowhere and go to the ACC championship. But this is going to be an interesting league. I think it's a lot more top heavy than a lot of the other leagues out there, and the bottom half of this league really sucks. Like, really sucks. Like, there is the Stanfords, the Virginias, the Boston Colleges, Wake Forests of the world that teams just have to beat up on. But a lot of interesting stuff going on the ACC this year. Big Bill has made his way to the ACC, and he has taken over North Carolina. If you don't know who Big Bill is, we're talking about Bill Belichick.
6-time Super Bowl winning head coach.
Yeah, right. And is this North Carolina athletic department is fully invested in football, and they went all in this offseason and brought in probably the most decorated college or coach of all time, right? I mean, outside of Nick Saban, who done it in the college ranks, I mean, Bill Belichick's got to be the most decorated coach that any team in the history of football has ever hired, right?
Yeah, what a shock hire that Bill Belichick going to North Carolina of all schools. I mean, he does have that family tie from way back in the day, right? But this is going to be really interesting, and I'm glad that they kind of get a showcase game on Labor Day night, and we're going to really see what this is all about against TCU. If they win that game, though, I don't think it's totally unrealistic for them to be undefeated into October, having Clemson at home, and boy, oh boy, wouldn't that be something?
Yeah, that's going to be a marquee game for sure in this league. Like we talked about with the SEC, I want to talk about the returning quarterbacks. Like, this is kind of being the story of college football. You're seeing a lot of teams that were like middle of the pack last year, but they're returning their quarterback, and you're seeing a lot of the top tier teams losing their quarterback, having first time starters. And Miami and Clemson, and I'll throw Louisville in there as well as a team that can contend up here at the top. You have returning quarterbacks in this league. You have obviously Cade Klubnik, who's probably going to be, as of right now, I would say the first quarterback taken in the 2026 draft. You have a guy in Haynes King, SEC reject, A&M legend, beating Alabama. Georgia Tech now has ascended to the top of this league in what they've done under Brent Key, but you have Haynes King returning. And then a team that literally nobody is talking about, again, is SMU, and Kevin Jennings bringing his team back, losing a little bit more than, a lot of people out there think, but I think SMU is definitely another team that's going to contend. Being in that Dallas, Texas market, they're always going to have strong recruiting numbers coming out of there. And that's another team that returns a veteran quarterback. And another team that people definitely aren't talking about is Pittsburgh. You might have heard the name. Obviously, Eli Holstein, coming from Alabama last year, takes the reins over that Pittsburgh job. has them off to an undefeated start, and then things just spun off of the rails. Like it was a tremendous fall off after being, I think, 5 or 6-0 last year. They finished the year extremely poorly. Eli kind of dealt with a lot of injuries, but that is a underrated guy as far as the returning quarterback market. That is a team in Pittsburgh that you're definitely going to have to watch out for this year.
And how about Duke? I mean, Duke brought in a first-year head coach last year. They had 9 wins, right? I mean, I'm curious to see what they can do. I know they've got Clemson on their schedule, but I was looking at their schedule. I don't think they have that many other of the top echelon of the league on it. I'm going to be interested to see what they can do and if they can build off of that great year last year.
Yeah, Duke is one of those fascinating teams for sure. They bring in Darren Mensah out of Tulane in what was big college football news, because it was like Duke's going out there with NIL money, spending money. I mean, we're talking about a team that won a lot of games last year, and they just go and toss Malik Murphy to the side, a kid from Texas that came in to be their starter. They just toss him to the side and end up going 9-3. It was one of those things where, I mean, this team was +6 in the turnover battle when they played SMU. +6 in the turnover battle and lost that football game. If they win that football game, they're probably in the ACC championship. Like, and then you go and just toss away your starting quarterback to go put your faith in a guy in Tulane who had a good season. But I mean, allegedly this was the largest NIL deal in the history of college football to bring in Mensah to this offense. And what Manny Diaz and the investment in this Duke football team is doing, a lot of people have them picked to be a middle tier team, and I'm with you, man. I think this team can make that leap and possibly sneak into an ACC championship if those top 2 teams slip up.
Mm-hmm. People say Clemson's one of the top teams. And I mean, I'd agree. Talent-wise, they're looking really good, but they didn't get a nice draw on that schedule this year. I mean, they do play LSU at home week 1 and bookend it, South Carolina on the other side. But then look in conference play, too. They got to go on the road to Georgia Tech, on the road to North Carolina playing Bill Belichick, on the road to Louisville. And then, you know what, Florida State gets its act together. So they've got some tough challenges in the ACC this year. It's not just 8 games to beat everybody up.
Yeah, Clemson is I think Clemson and Miami are obviously going to have to carry the torch for this league to get the reputation of the ACC kind of back. Because Miami has an interesting schedule and Clemson has an interesting non-conference schedule. Miami plays Notre Dame week 1. I think a lot of people forget that about that game because it's on Sunday night. Clemson obviously is highlighted because they're playing the primetime Saturday night game against LSU, a marquee brand, but don't sleep on the Hurricanes when they invite Notre Dame there week 1. And week 1 is so crucial for the ACC this year. There are so many matchups between SEC, ACC schools. You obviously have the TCU North Carolina game. You have Georgia Tech going to Colorado. Like, week 1 for the ACC is going to be a make or break for whether this team could possibly get 2 bids in. Because last year you saw they only got 1 bid in, and it was because of their lack of strength of schedule. But if you can go out there and show the country that you can win these non-conference games, you could possibly be a 2, maybe even a 3 bid league team, depending on how it all shakes out. But you look at how it could turn out for a team like Clemson. You play LSU first game, South Carolina last game. Like, what if Clemson goes undefeated in the ACC and finishes 10-2, and their only 2 losses are to LSU and South Carolina, right? And let's say LSU doesn't win the league, and South Carolina finishes middle of the pack of the SEC. People are going to look at that and be like, wow, the ACC really is not that good if their top tier team went undefeated in their league, but ended up losing all of their marquee non-conference games. So I think week 1 is super important, and the non-conference schedule is just as important to the ACC as the conference schedule this year.
Yeah, if that scenario you just described plays out, I can imagine myself being one of those people being like, don't waste a spot on ACC team. You see what happened there. Hey, last year South Carolina beat the ACC champion. SMU still got that last spot pretty much, and then we saw they got their butt whooped in the first round of the playoff. Of course, you can say that about a lot of teams. Wasn't that a wonderful weekend of football last year? But anyway, you are right about that week 1 being such a big week for the ACC. It feels like just about all their big brands are playing in some kind of major test, and yeah, that really will set the tone for the season. Of course, here's another thing. The counter argument could be, well, it was just week 1. I mean, it shouldn't count because you don't get scrimmages or preseason games in college football. You got to be ready to go from the jump, and the team you see on August 30th is a lot different than the team you see November 30th.
Yeah, so we kind of highlighted on Bill Belichick, right? And talked about him being new to the ACC. But I want to talk about a couple of coaches on my list of guys that are on the hot seat this year. We kind of did this in the SEC earlier, and we had a couple names we threw out there. But a couple of guys I got on the hot seat for the ACC this year is Tony Elliott. And us being in South Carolina, we kind of know a little bit about Tony Elliott. A lot of people know him from his days at Clemson. Some people might not even know he's the coach at Virginia anymore. But they struggled last year, and they struggled the year before that. 3 wins and 5 wins is just not going to cut it, even at a place like Virginia.
Hey, have you seen their schedule this year? Who is on it? I mean, I don't think they have any teams that should be ranked in the preseason on that schedule. I mean, nothing less than bowl eligibility, I think, would be acceptable for them this year.
Yeah, so Tony Elliott did his best job that he's done since he's been there at talent acquisition. They hit the portal, they got a good veteran group of transfers, and they get a schedule boost. Like you said, they avoid the giants of Clemson and Miami, and drew the 6 of the ACC's bottom 10. So this is a team that if Tony Elliott is not bowl eligible at the end of, you could easily see a new regime coming in there to Charlottesville. Another team that I want to talk about is Brent Pry and Virginia Tech. You being a South Carolina guy kind of have probably been looking more into this than I have, but Brent Pry at Virginia Tech has really, really struggled. Not good enough at all for a program that Frank Beamer built into an ACC powerhouse, really, for a long time there. Virginia Tech has not been relevant for a long time. They've only made a bowl game once out of the last 5 seasons. Under Justin Fuente and now Brent Pry in year 3. Brent Pry really has got to get it going here, and unfortunately for Brent Pry, it is not very easy. You have South Carolina on your schedule. You have a team that we didn't really get to cover much, but a team in Vanderbilt that you're hosting that could easily come into your building and beat you. You go to Georgia Tech, you play Louisville, you play Miami. It is not a very favorable schedule for Virginia Tech, but this is going to be a team that a lot of Virginia Tech fans are waiting for the revival of this program, and I just don't see it coming with Brent Pry this year.
Yeah, and I mean, not saying I'm biased, but if they do have a little revival, hopefully it doesn't start week 1. But yeah, Florida State is another one you got to look at, and that's wild to think because they were 13-0 conference champs, and then what happens last year? They were what, 2-10? It's just crazy. And I mean, if they don't get it back together this year, they have another year like last year, Mike Norvell could be out the door. Hard to believe because it was 2 seasons ago. They could have, should have been in the playoff, won the conference, and man, what a turnaround. But they kind of live by the portal, die by the portal over there.
Yeah, and Mike Norvell, I mean, if you would have asked Florida State fans 2 years ago what they thought about Mike Norvell after that season, they would have been praising him to the moon. Like they gave him an extension, gave him the resources to be one of the top contenders, and to have what happened last year is just inexcusable at a place like Florida State. Like obviously you have a lot of issues, but to let it get that bad is never going to be good enough. This is a team, like you said, that builds through the portal. Over the last 2 years, they've signed the best portal class with a weighted average of being number one in the country. So the talent is there. It's all about putting the pieces together for Mike Norvell, and the schedule does not do them any favors. Like we talk about with most of these teams, schedule makes a difference when it comes to these programs. You play Alabama, you play Miami, you play Clemson, you go on the road at NC State. Like you play Florida at the end of the year. Like this is not a walk in the park for Mike Norvell, but they addressed every single position in the transfer portal again. But this time they went with experience. They didn't just go for the guys that were putting up numbers. They went Power 4 starters, even all conference performers. Like he pulled off one of the best double coordinator switches you could possibly think of in hiring Gus Malzahn. And it's a transfer heavy program. They're going to be on that fringe top 25 team there. But with Clemson and Miami being the more established ACC powers right now, I don't see a path for them getting to Charlotte this year and making it to the ACC championship, but definitely have to be, I'd say, in that 8 wins or above mark for fans to feel comfortable with Mike Norvell.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think 6-6 would cut it. Even though they do have such a tough schedule this year, they expect so much more over in Florida State, and it looked like they were building to something really special 2022, 2023, and then fall off a cliff like that. Yeah, the Florida State fans aren't going to put up with that much longer.
All right, well, so we've kind of talked about the top half of this league, all right? But outside of the Clemson and Miami, and we'll even throw Louisville in there because they've been at the top before, who is a team that you're looking at in the ACC that could be that team that ascends that makes the SMU jump, right? A team that nobody was expecting to make it to the ACC championship. Who is this year's SMU in the ACC?
Well, I really like Georgia Tech, but I think a lot of people would see that coming, right? So I might need to pick a different one. I'm putting my money on Bill Belichick, North Carolina. I'm not putting money on it, actually. I'm not that confident, but I mean, he's Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick. I'm interested to see what he can do at North Carolina. And again, I think it's a pretty favorable schedule. You get Clemson coming to your building. Hey, you never know.
Yeah, and North Carolina is another one of those teams where I think they're going to be around the middle of the pack this year. We'll see how it goes. I think Bill Belichick is going to have a harsh reality when he learns that he can't do the same things in the NFL that he can do in college. And I think it's going to be a reality check for him, a really big learning curve here in the first year for North Carolina. But they definitely have the workable schedule where you can see them, if they do figure things out and maybe sneak up on Clemson and beat them, where there's not a lot of other teams on their schedule that'll be better than them. But you talked about Georgia Tech, and I'm going to take this opportunity to talk about Georgia Tech because I love Georgia Tech. I really do. I love the Fighting Haynes Kings. Like, that is my team. If anybody outside of Clemson or Miami is going to win this league, I think it's Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech and Brent Key have done an unreal job. Like, since he's gotten there, he has changed the face of this program. They have this mentality where it's like they got to win the recruiting battles in the state of Atlanta. Like, Georgia Tech being centralized right there in the heart of Georgia and being able to recruit to the level that they should be recruiting at, being the institute that they are, what Brent Key has done is unreal. They obviously have Haynes King coming back, but people don't talk about Jamal Haynes coming back, a running back that was all conference last year. you have a guy in Eric Rivers who was viewed as one of the top wide receivers in the portal this year. He's paired with a guy, another transfer in Malik Rutherford, who come in here and are going to make an immediate impact. People see Eric Singleton, who is their leading pass catcher, going to Auburn, but this Georgia Tech team just plays with a different mentality, man. They are fun to watch. I mean, I just remember being glued to my TV last year watching them take on Georgia in like a 7-8 overtime game where it was just 2-point conversions and teams making plays here and there. And that's a team that won the SEC last year. And Georgia Tech was right there to beat them. And the 2 years under Brinke, the results might not show it, but this team is trending severely up, and I think Georgia Tech is for sure a team that you're going to have to keep an eye on in the ACC this year.
Yeah, and don't forget, Georgia Tech, a few weeks before they played Georgia, they beat Miami, and that result kept Miami out of the ACC championship game. Miami was riding high, top 5 team at the time, and Georgia Tech went on and beat them. So, yeah, watch out for Georgia Tech.
All right, well, we're going to try to do better this time. We're going to move into our conference predictions. All right, so we're going to talk, obviously, we've talked about a lot of the teams, right? But in your opinion, who's meeting up in Atlanta? Who's meeting up in Atlanta? Or not Atlanta, sorry, wrong. Charlotte, yes, the Queen City, you know, the beautiful area of Charlotte. Shout out to my Charlotte viewers. I'm very sorry. But obviously Clemson and Miami headline this thing. But in your opinion, who do you think's going to end up in Charlotte there?
I really think Georgia Tech finds a way to Charlotte. I'm a big believer in them. I like what they're doing this year. And then I don't know who I can say would face them. I mean, Clemson, it seems like, always finds a way to go to Charlotte, and obviously the preseason expectations are so high for them. But like I said, they do have some interesting challenges this year. They avoid Miami, but they do have to go on the road to Georgia Tech, on the road to the Fighting Bill Belichick's. I don't know. Georgia Tech, Clemson, or Georgia Tech, Miami. I'm not sure which way to go. Fortunately for Miami, though, some of their toughest games are non-conference with Notre Dame and Florida. Yeah, Georgia Tech, Miami. I'm taking a shot.
You got Miami winning the ACC or Georgia Tech winning the ACC?
I'm taking Georgia Tech all the way. Georgia Tech.
I like to see, man.
Georgia and Georgia Tech, SEC, ACC champs.
That makes my heart feel good. Unfortunately, I'm going to use my brain when I make these predictions, unlike you. And I'm
using my heart.
Yeah, and I'm gonna use the bold approach here, and I'm gonna go Clemson over Miami in the ACC championship game. I just think Clemson's a really good team, man. I think Miami's a really good team. The interesting thing, I think Miami obviously is more gettable than Clemson. I think Clemson's going to roll through the ACC this year. But Miami's interesting. Did you know that Miami doesn't leave the state of Florida until November 1st?
I've heard something like that.
How in the world, as an ACC commissioner, is that even possible? How do you let that happen? And then you go to SMU November 1st, and obviously, being that you played all these home games, and you play Florida State and Florida and all that stuff, you go and you play at Blacksburg, all right, which is not going to be easy. This team was a Hail Mary BS call away from beating them last year. And then you go at Pittsburgh, who is another one of those teams where if Eli Holstein can stay healthy, like Pittsburgh is a team to be reckoned with. That's how you finish the season, with back-to-back road games there. So not easy for Miami. I think Miami comes out of this thing being the most talented team. I don't think that's going to reflect win-loss-wise. I do think that the ACC this year is going to be a two-bid league. I think Clemson and Miami both finish with one loss in the conference. And I don't think we're going to see from the results of last year, I don't think they're going to punish Miami for losing a conference championship game. So I think Miami sneaks into the backside of that college football playoff. But I would think Miami has the better chance to go further in the college football playoff than Clemson.
Yeah, okay. I like you using your brain. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. I'm just saying, how often does it always go the way we think it's going to go? Look at the teams who have made that conference champ game the last few years. SMU, Louisville, and there was that one year with like Wake Forest and Pittsburgh or something strange. So I don't know. That's what you'd think in August, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, so with that being said, man, that is going to be it for our ACC preview. We covered a lot here today, covering the two Southeastern conferences in the ACC and the SEC, and got a lot of good information out there. But if you guys are still watching, man, we appreciate it. Hopefully you guys stick around. We're going to be previewing the Big 12 and the Big 10 sometime soon. But check us out, man. Follow us on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe. We're on all social media platforms. We're doing the TikTok stuff. We're doing the Instagram and the stuff on X. So it'll be easy to find us once you get in there. And we'll have content coming to you all season long, man. This is going to be a fun thing that we're going to continue to do. Enjoy having Will Volk here. And like I said, my name's Michael Sedetol. And appreciate you guys, and we will see you guys next time. And cut it here, Will.